Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to episode 16 of the Growth Street Podcast. I could not be more excited to be sat across Juan Faura. He's an ex-graduate now from Penn State, and he's doing some really big things in the athlete and influencer representation space, but also a lot more. So I'm super excited to talk to you, man, hear about what you're doing, your story, and really to just inspire other, college students and young people kind of around the world. So, dude, I'm stoked to have you here, man. How you doing, bro?
I'm fired up, guys. How we doing? Happy Sunday. That's when we're recording this podcast. But yeah, man, I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
Me and Darj connected last week, and yesterday hit me with a text like, yo, should we record the pod? Change travel plans, make things happen. We're here now, ready to go. And I appreciate the opportunity.
It's just crazy, man. Like, I literally, for those who don't know, I called you, I texted you like literally yesterday in the afternoon. I was like, hey, I have a spot opened up. I would love to record an episode. And within like 10 minutes, we were like, we're going to get you over here. So that's like, again, credit to you for making things happen, being proactive. And like, I mean, it shows you, man. We're both excited to talk about it. We are going to have a conversation next week. We literally had time on the calendar to connect again next week. But now it's like we're actually meeting in person, which is a way better way to do it and create some value and just actually let me understand more about you. And then inherently everyone else watching home is going to do the same thing.
Likewise. And I got to just give flowers really quick. Shout out to these guys. I mean, I watched Austin Thomas and Danny Cooper's pod. Yeah. And I think I love what you guys are doing mission-wise, and I think it truly shows from the setup to just like how you guys present yourself. And so, yeah, just let's get into it.
Yeah, dude, now you're part of the Growth Street gang too, man. That's what I always say to everyone. So, I mean, yeah, like the whole idea here, as you know, is like really to just get people to be inspired by hearing success stories, by hearing their best advice, and just trying to take a little bit from everyone that comes on. I think the most important thing is that we're trying to create this value, right?
Facts.
And so many people are so different in their journeys. And by bringing on so many successful people at different times of their lives, it allows everyone who's watching to get a little bit of something different from everyone that we watch. So, dude, you've been doing so much. I always love to hear, I mean, what are you doing right now, man? What have you been up to?
Yeah, the focal point, like you said, I just graduated Penn State. I'm focused on Go Time, which is my athlete and influencer representation. You see it right here. Shout out New Era for, making one-on-one. But just helping athletes, primarily within the college space, really, how do they build their brand outside their sport, right? So a lot of athletes, when it comes to NIL, they think of, how much money can I make? Or that's how they think about it from a capitalization standpoint. For me, it's like, okay, if you're really interested in having your own gymnastics camp, for example, if you're really interested in starting your own podcast, how do you use NIL and your name to allow those things to happen?
Yeah.
Can you have a brand that helps sponsor some of those initiatives, right? So I think it's really thinking from a 10,000 level view of how those different initiatives and things that you want to do impact your overall NIL. Does that make sense?
Yeah, NIL, just to confirm, is getting athletes and like influencers who are in college right now opportunities to get brand deals, sponsorships, and things like that, correct?
Correct. It stands for name, image, and likeness. And really, that's just what like endorsements is in general, right? This is not a new idea. Professional athletes, when you see them on a commercial, that is utilizing their name, image, and likeness. It's just the term that they coined when it comes to college athletes. And so, like to your point, it's all those different things, but brand deals, things, but it's so much more than just that brand deal aspect.
Yeah, and dude, I imagine like the whole idea was, for college athletes, it was a whole thing of like, should it happen, should it not? And now I'm seeing, there's so many famous, like, now because of social media, athletes have millions of followers, thousands of followers, and it's like they get to kind of benefit off that now, right? And I always think about, so many of these people have like, I always associate like, let's say, a famous college athlete. I'll use someone from Penn State, Saquon Barkley, for example, who was in school. I'm sure he had like, an agent, someone who's really representing him, making these things happen. But now I'm looking at it like, wait, you're doing this right now. You're 22, 21? 22 years old, and you're doing this now for all these athletes and people. So how did you even get started in this for being so young? Like, I can't imagine what it's like to actually get people on board, that whole journey. So what was that like?
Yeah, well, I think NIL, to your point, it allowed an opportunity because a lot of athletes before NIL from a college perspective, it was you waited until you were about to go pro. So if you're an NFL or an NBA guy, you waited until that opportunity came to have an agent come to you who helps represent you on the field when it comes to your contracts. But NIL allowed that opportunity that a college kid in class who I sit next to, they don't know how to navigate the space as much as I do. So why don't you take that investment together and make something happen? So for me, it dates back. I got to shout out Austin again from Jerpa. I got a little bit of experience by just reaching out to different agencies to get their athletes Jerpa product.
Okay.
And then when Sean Clifford hit us up about starting Limitless, I helped him kind of start that and being one of like the athlete liaisons between the company and like brands, if that makes sense. Back in 2022. So that's kind of how I got started, was through the clothing brand side, and then transitioning into the representation side, which is like seeing both sides of the equation.
Yeah, so but like how? So I mean, that sounds like an insane journey, right? So again, for those who don't know, Sean Clifford was the ex-quarterback of Penn State, and now he's the current back. Yeah, Green Bay Packers starting quarterback. I mean, the backup of who that is. So I mean, you said you started this by literally in class, people sitting next to you, working with Austin. So how does someone who's at home, like, who wants to, because dude, I think a lot of people like us, we get obsessed with sports, man. Like me, obsessed with the Dallas Cowboys.
That's the problem number one. We're Eagles all the way.
Hey, we still made it here though, so that's nice. I'm wearing the blue right now, but a lot of people who grew up loving sports or music, or they love something, right? Yeah. And their dreams when they're young is that they would love to work with these people that they looked up to, and you actually are making it happen. So I'd love to hear more about like the actual nitty-gritty on how you got started. You said you hit up Austin to work in that space. I'd love to you could kind of more tell that story of like you went from college student with like nothing, right? You were just another student at Penn State, 50,000 kids. Yeah. How did you go from that to like your first experience working with someone like that you wanted to work with, or kind of what was that process like for you?
100%. Yeah. So I think to your point though, it's really important. A lot of kids want to work in sports in general. Yeah, it's a very like flashy type of industry. You see it on social media, when you're at the Super Bowl Radio Row and you got all these athletes posted up, it looks flashy, but the reality is that's like 2% of the actual industry. No one sees the 10-hour screen time that you have during the day, because 6 hours of that is phone calls, talking to brands, talking to different connects that you have, trying to get these gigs, because at the end of the day, who you know and all those opportunities is what's going to want an athlete to sign with you versus someone else, right? You have to have that whole hustle type mentality. So for me, I mean, I've said this to you, but not everybody would know this. I did free work for athletes for almost a full year, meaning I would get them sponsorships, and they might not be big sponsorships, but like free change from Shop GLD, or like, different things like products sent to their house, like whether it's a supplement company or an energy drink. So doing that for free, no expectations, but to show your worth.
I can create value for you. Yeah.
Correct. Create value up front. Because a lot of people, they just want to step in and be like, yo, I'm an agent. I went to law school, or yo, I'm got a master's in sports administration. Yeah. Now can I work with athletes? But like, that's great from an academia standpoint, but you have no track record to show that you actually have maybe contacts at brands, or that you've facilitated a sports camp. So it makes it a little bit harder for an athlete to want to, invest, because also too, not to mention, you're also investing in the families, like especially with college athletes. Like I'm talking to families as well, at least when we're like in the signing process. Like they want to understand what their kid's actually getting into, because it's a legal, agreement. This is a formal business partnership. So that's another thing too that I think a lot of kids don't realize. It's you could be buddies and start with someone in your class, awesome. But as you elevate, you have to realize it's a full picture. Like you're making these kids dollars, and especially once you start making them more dollars. So I guess to answer your question, that's what I would say for kids is start with that free value and no expectation. You're not just going to walk in and, maybe you have the fortune of that you're friends with the starting quarterback, but like still like you need to put in those reps and just be like, yo, I want to help you out. Let me just do anything. Is it cool if I just like on behalf of you reach out for brands? Yeah,
I think the big thing is like showing your effort more than showing like your talent necessarily.
Correct. Right? Or that your desire to want to work with athletes, right?
Like, let's say someone is the most connected person ever, but if you only make 5 calls for you a week, it's good, but it's not maybe helpful. But let's say someone is like you who wants to get in there, actually help people, and you're doing 500 emails a week. They're going to want to work with you. They know after a year, the chance of you actually being more valuable to them is 10 times higher. You're like, wait, this kid really has my back. This guy wants me to succeed. So I think, like, again, working for free, not many people who are in college think that way.
They don't want to think that way because they're in college, not to cut you off, but they're in college. And they're so worried about, obviously, I'll understand everybody's financial situation might be different. And you're paying for an academic experience that it costs a lot, but there's something to be said about, again, utilizing that time to build up those reps. But go ahead.
No, dude, you're so right though. I think like even for me, right, when I was in school, I did 3 unpaid internships, and everyone was like, "Why would you do unpaid internships? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?" I'm like, dude, for me, it's like getting actual good experience and good connections over the long run of time will pay me back so much more than the $15 an hour I can get working some shitty internship, right? Or like some on-campus job. Whereas, so I see for you, like doing that for a whole year and trying, working like best at it, stands out. That's actually what's going to get you to where you want to go one step closer. And something that I saw a video you posted about, which really resonates with me, is when it was COVID, what I did was I wanted to work in sports just like you. I'm obsessed with sports, right? So before I was doing all this now, even before I worked for LinkedIn, my whole thing was I wanted to work for the Dallas Cowboys, right? My dream, like everything I wanted to be a GM for the Cowboys since I was 7 years old, playing Madden, career mode, all that stuff. And my whole thing was, how can I get to work for the Dallas Cowboys? So my whole idea was, let me talk and get connections with every sports team in the NFL and the NBA. So during COVID, that was like when I was a sophomore in college. And I was like, wait, there's an opportunity here to really like leverage this like whole Zoom culture to get into contact with so many people. So what I did was, like you, I had all these meetings through LinkedIn. I would DM people, 50 people a day to connect with someone. Like, hey, can I just have 15 minutes of your time? And I kept a spreadsheet like you did. I saw the video. And I literally had a spreadsheet of every team I talked to, every person, last time we spoke, key things that we talked about, just to build this network and build experience. And again, that's not me. And I did this probably like 20 hours a week, bro. And this is, again, getting paid $0. This is just for me to get connections. And I see you did that. And again, look what it turned into for you. For me, it turned into an internship for the Golden State Warriors over the summer. I talked, not like an internship, but more of like a experience-ship. And then I got to work for, and then I got to work for DC United MLS team. And then I had offers for the Detroit Tigers, Tennessee Titans, and all that kind of stuff. And the whole point is like, little things like that, like networking and spending a lot of time to do free stuff that's actually long-term value to you will actually pay it back for you. So I love to hear about how you did that to help what you're doing now.
Yeah, I love that. It's literally the theme is invest in yourself.
Literally,
right?
exactly.
Like people want to. It's funny when someone tells you to be at your job at 9 a.m. You're gonna be there. But when it's you tell yourself that, hey, I want to build more connections to make myself known within an industry. It's on you, and you're for some reason you're not.
People don't do it.
People don't do it, so then they're crying about the results. So to your point about the LinkedIn, I would reach out to people. But one thing I think that is misconstrued about networking in general, especially within the sports industry, at least from my experience, just because you hop on a call with somebody doesn't mean anything. You have to nurture that. That's why for me on that Excel sheet you mentioned, which I appreciate you doing that.
Dude, I saw that.
Doing that research is. I used to write notes, like even if it was a 1 or 2 sentence line, including the call that I had with you last week. What did we last talk about? To then bring that back up in conversation if it does. So it might not get brought up naturally, but you at least have a talking point. So you're not just like, hey, like how have things been with you? Right? I think so many times when people are networking, it's like, how have things been with you? What have you been up to? Look, everybody's got to focus on their own thing, but if you write 1 or 2 things, you could at least know a touch point. I call them touch points. To like actually nurture that relationship and be like, hey, I know you're talking about that project you're working on.
And if you look at so many people, it's like it's so hard to forget all the little things too.
Correct.
So one thing I always do is I ask them something, like for example, you told me like something personal you're doing, right? You're going to DC or whatever. I always write down one personal thing that they tell me, because even like if I ask you about your company or what you're working on, that's one thing, or like their job. But if like for example, like someone tells me, oh, they're going to their daughter's dance recital, that's what I'm gonna write down. So I'll say, oh, how is your daughter's dance recital? That's an example.
How did that dance recital go? And that adds that personability. Where now that person not only is like, hey, I want to do business with that person, but I could see myself going to happy hour.
Like he cares about me as a person more than me as like a commodity or as me as like an entrepreneur or as something like that.
Because like people are the ROI of life. I stole that cheese from Gary Vee. It is true. But like you have to do it the right way and build those relationships. Going back really quick, something that I also do as well that I think separates me is look, I'm only 22 and I'm in this athlete influencer space where agents primarily are anywhere between like 26 and above, and a lot of them are like 30, 40. I'm making, and I'm not saying these agents don't do this, but I'm making sure I have notes of when their birthday is, when first day of classes are. Like I do that research and like, hey, you have a great first day of classes. That's not to be like friends or whatever, because obviously at the end of the day, it's a business relationship, and like you have to keep the business the main thing. But again, it adds that personability where it's like they don't have to feel like it's a burden of, oh, my agent's calling me.
It's a transactional thing.
Transactional, right? Or like if it's a networking ping, oh, here's this guy texting me again. He's saying, hey, how you been? And you already know what the second text is going to be. It's going to be, hey, do you have an opportunity for me? More so, make it that relationship. I hope that makes sense, though. It's about
it does.
Personability, and not enough people do that because it takes 3-4 more messages, calls, whatever, to actually allow that to happen versus just like, I get everybody has an agenda, but let it happen.
Dude, I would also argue people just don't even know that like that's how it's supposed to be, because I think a lot of people, when they just assume like, oh, this is for a business, they're like, let me just treat it like a business transaction.
Correct.
Whereas something that I've realized like in the last couple of years of my life is that people want to work with their friends, people they like, more than anything. When it comes to sales, people would rather buy from someone that they think they like more than someone they think is like a good product. For example, I'm sure for you, right, it's like, let's say you're a barber. I always use this example. Would you rather?
Got a haircut too,
hey, it looks fresh, bro. It looks fresh.
No, it's not great. I gotta do better. Yours is nice and
dude. I gotta get the fade, bro. For me and my mom, I get it cut every 2 weeks. I call them to get a cut
every
today.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
I gotta be better. I do like once every 5 months.
No, but what I'm saying is even like for restaurants, you're gonna go back to the same place that gives you a good experience than some places that is objectively the best, right? So for example, when it comes to like you, I'll use you as an example, right? You're an up and coming, agent or representative for these people. What's the reason someone's going to come to you? Objectively, you might not be the best person, the most tapped in person right now.
Correct.
Objectively, right?
No, that is correct.
Yeah, but what you are is someone who's going to really care and go the extra mile. And when someone sees that, that's what matters more. And I would argue that most people who are trying to do this don't even know that's a real thing. They're just thinking, oh, how do I have the best website, the best Instagram page, the best emails, the most professional sounding messages? People don't really want that at a certain point.
Yeah.
They want someone they can work together. Like my last guest, Danny Cooper, right?
Shout out D Coop.
Yeah, shout out Danny, right? He's like best friends with Mac McClung, NBA player. And the reason why him and Mac are so tight and why he works with him so much is not because he's the best trainer, because they've now become best friends.
Correct.
And that is the difference, right? You look at someone like LeBron, right? His agent is not the best objective agent. Yeah. He chose one of his best friends from high school, and he became an agent because of that. So I think that most people who are watching this, who are like trying to figure out how to get real connections and actually know real people, is be someone that the person likes to be around. And obviously you have to provide value, again, of course. But don't make like that business approach the main thing. Make it like, am I an enjoyed person for them to be around? And do they actually have the value, but also do they like me? I think that's a big thing too.
And also too, like one other quick thing I want to say when it comes to just like, like networking and like just like being more personable. Like, you know, when somebody walks in the room within 15 to 20 seconds, in my opinion, if they have an agenda or not. And I know people say or might say like, don't judge a book by its cover, and it's maybe first interaction. But like, I think there is something to be said just about like, again, I'm a big advocate of like ask first, before, like ask questions before you tell, right? Like,
so what does that mean?
So what does that mean to me? That means ask somebody about what they got going on. Ask somebody about their journey. Ask somebody about their experiences, what they think, before you even talk about what you got going on, right? Because like naturally the other person, human psychology, I feel, is they're going to want to ask you because they're going to hear themselves keep talking. They're like, all right, enough talking about me. I want to hear about what you got going on. And then now that's an alley-oop for you to then talk about it. But if that makes sense.
No,
versus
it does.
like I've been on sometimes with networking calls, especially like when I was doing, you know, stuff my freshman, sophomore year. I won't say the industry, but like I just felt like this one industry, like in general, and I was like, all right, so like when we started the call, like, all right, good afternoon, whatever, how you think, and then it's just like, boom, they get right into the thing, and it's just like, it creates now this like barrier of like,
we're not people anymore. Now we're like commodities. Then
and it just doesn't feel. So for you, right? Obviously with this podcast, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah,
with this podcast,
reverse.
Right? You know, reverse real quick.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you want to have it personable, and you could tell by just the setup and all that.
Of course, yeah.
But for you, like your experience networking, obviously working at LinkedIn, like how did you see that kind of when it comes to like that personability? It's such a larger corporation.
No, I mean LinkedIn was like the last company that I worked for, but networking for me started again when I was doing the whole sports team thing. My whole idea was I just wanted to have connections at anywhere like that I could possibly see myself going or where I wanted to go. So I was like, okay, how do I become? My whole thing was like, how do I become like friends with these people? Not friends, but like someone that they want to root for.
Right.
Because one of my mentors told me a long time ago was that if you're someone that people like, don't be the objective best candidate. Be someone that someone wants to work with. So for example, it's like, let's say I interview 15 people, like let's say for grocery, right? The odds are I pick the objective best candidate, sure are good, but let's say someone's like the second best or third best candidate, but I can see myself working with them the most, and I think they're actually someone that I could be friends with for a long time. I'll pick that person because I know that they're gonna like create an actual relationship with me and not just like be objectively the best person. Whereas they can still be the best person, but I can see myself working with them too. So for me, networking was all about, okay, how do I talk to as many people as possible, but in the most like genuine way? So what I would do is, my whole thing was with the whole sports thing, so I know where I started was I reached out to everyone from all these teams, right? The Dallas Cowboys, the Titans, and that was very entry level people. Like I'm not going for like the CEOs and the presidents.
Another thing too.
Yeah, you got to start at like it's A to Z.
Yeah.
You can't go from A to Z.
Yeah.
You got to go from A to B to Z. I mean A to B to C to F.
C1,
to F. Yes.
C2.
Exactly. So for me, it's okay. Let me hit up like the most entry level people at all these places, right? So it started off by me literally going on LinkedIn, looking up, inside sales at the New York Jets or like small teams like the Miami Marlins and whatever. And I'll say, hey, I saw you're a first-year employee at this team. I'm going to go to University of Maryland right now. I'd love to hear more about you, right? Mm-hmm. And then they would love me and we talk more. And then they would say, oh my God, let me connect you with my boss. Let me connect you with my boss. Next thing I know, a year later, now I'm talking to the presidents of like the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm seeing their championship rings. Talking to the vice president of the Los Angeles Lakers. Only because I'm actually caring with the person I'm talking to. I'm also not trying to get everything out of them. I'm not asking them like, oh, can you please connect me with your boss? Oh,
yeah,
no,
that's a big thing people do. It's like,
I'm trying to tell you, like, all I want to do is learn.
Yes.
Like, can you just tell me something? I'm like, I always say this to everyone. If you can point me in the right direction, whatever that is, so your advice, I'd appreciate it. And they'll probably just tell you on that point, hey, I'll do that.
Yes.
So applying to that kind of the corporate space with LinkedIn, what I did was, I would have these first conversations. I would, again, do the whole thing where I'd ask for people that I know, referrals, do all that stuff. But I wouldn't say, oh, can you give me a referral for a job? That's so transactional.
It's so transactional.
I always say, like, I always ask them a million questions. I go into do a ton of research. For example, I'm not the one, like, my biggest advice to people is on these coffee chats and all this shit.
Yeah, hear this, guys.
Yeah, people are always saying, like, oh, so what's the day-to-day like at your job? Or what's the hard part of what you do? These are boring-ass, these are real. These are boring-ass questions. Like, people you're talking to probably talk to so many other kids too, and if you're asking the same questions, it's like why, like, this is a waste of my time. But what I'll do is I'll do like an insane amount of research on the person, like the most little things they've done. So for example, the way I brought up your Excel sheet, right?
The Excel sheet.
I'll bring up like, oh, so I saw you went to this high school and you were in that club. Do you feel like that club was helpful for you, like when you're in your role? They're like, oh my God, how do you know that? Like, this guy's legit. Like, he's like actually, like, he cares more.
Invested in the conversation.
Yeah, or I'll be like, oh my God, I just saw someone on your team, because I'll look at all their team. I'll do crazy research.
Sheesh.
And I'll literally look up and I'll be like, oh, so I saw someone on your team just got promoted to now being an account executive. How did they get promoted? Like, do you think what key things did you think made them stand out? And now it's like, wait, this guy's like different. He's like actually whatever. So that was one thing that I did. The second thing that I did was make it very personal. So you said alley-oop. It's funny. I call my sauce the alley-oop too. The first thing I always ask someone is, let's say me and you are talking for the first time right now, right? What's the first thing that I would ask you think?
Man, that's a good question.
What do you think? Yeah, what do you think?
I was gonna say, how's your day?
Yes, exactly. That's the right answer. So first thing we hop on the call, I'll say, yo, so how you doing? Most people, what do they say? Oh, I'm good. How are you? Dude, you're missing a huge opportunity. I always say, I'm doing great. I overshare. I'm doing great. I'm recording a podcast episode today with a new friend I made, Juan, right? I don't want to pronounce it right. I thought it was Juan.
Juan. Yeah, it's spelled like Juan, but it's Juan.
Yeah, Juan. So it's like I'm meeting with Juan right now. He's from Penn State. My mom and my neighbors are putting us this awesome meat sauce with spaghetti. I'm looking forward to. I always overshare. And then what I say back to you, then I say, oh, how are you doing? Now, again, human nature, you're going to give me a real response too. Because if I say I'm good, how are you? You're going to say, oh, I'm good too. But if I speak about my entire day, now so are you.
That's what, not to cut you off real quick, can I just say something?
Yeah, go for it.
That's why for me, I don't know if you remember, my thing is for personability is what's the word of the day? Because I want to always see where someone's head's at. So I always end a call by saying, what's your word of the day? Because it could be, see where their mind is, and then that could really tell you where they're at that current situation.
Yeah, you can connect with them on that personal
and then
level.
On that follow-up email, if you check in with them, you say, what's your word of the day today, right? So I think that is
your way of saying in touch.
But I love what you said about the day part.
And the key part is, so I asked him about that, and I don't finish it there. So that's the lob. I call that the lob.
Yeah.
At the very end of the
jam.
call. Yeah, at the very end of the call. The jam is when we're ending the call now. Obviously, we've talked about all the business or the networking, all that stuff. But then you don't want to end the call feeling like a business call, right?
Yep.
So you want to end it on a personal call, on a personal note. So then I say at the end, thank you, whatever. I say all my thank yous. And then I'll say, I hope this weekend you have a really great time doing whatever you told me about. Or I'll make sure I bring up that personal thing that he told me in the very beginning. Let's say you told me you're going to DC this weekend, right? I would end the call saying, oh my God, so real quick before we go, how was your trip to DC? And then we talk about that before we go. Before we end the call.
It puts the bow tie in the combo.
Exactly. And now the end the call, like, wait, this guy is someone like I could actually be around. He doesn't care about me just for what I'm doing. He's like actually paying attention to my personal stuff.
100%.
Right? And that is something that most people don't do. So that has allowed me to, I think, not even trying to like flex, but like every person I've talked to on this kind of networking calls, they all root for me. So then what does that turn into? Now when I have these interviews and these referrals, they want to give me the referral because they want to work with me. They want me to talk to their boss. They're like, wow, this kid's crazy. Like, this kid's awesome. Like, he's a beast. I want to work with him. So what did that turn into? Dude, every company I applied for after college, Google, IBM, Salesforce, Microsoft, I all had a referral. I would get, when I was talking to sports teams, people would tell me on the call, when you graduate next year, call me, I'll give you a job. Like the Tennessee Titans, their vice president, I was on the phone with him. And he also knew some of the Detroit Tigers. Both of these teams, I talked to like their VPs. They're like, oh my God, Darsh, like when you need a job out of college, like I'll give you a job. Like, if you want to give me a job right now, I'll give you a job right now. And why did that happen? Not because I was asking them, all these normal questions, or I was doing it all business. I said I combined two things. I made it very personal, and I asked very like specific research-based questions to like show them that I'm like legit.
Right.
Because that's what makes you stand out. People thought the coffee chat made you stand out.
Absolutely.
Now everyone's doing the coffee chats.
Yeah.
So how do you stand out one step further? And that's what I would do.
And it's like even to an extent, if you really want to go somewhere, my cheese too is ask him, like, when you got to build up some rapport.
Yeah.
Ask him for their address and send him a personal note. Like, I send sometimes cards, like Christmas cards.
Yeah.
or something like that, like their birthday
cards.
Yeah. Like that's really extreme. Like,
but it's still the extra,
it's the extra
mile
step because that's what's gonna separate you. To your point.
Yeah, especially due to the social media.
You're dropping bombs right now.
We both are.
People need to listen. Darsh, if you're not listening to what he just said about how he connected with the vice president at the Dallas Cowboys, and you think that that's a reach, start reevaluating how you're approaching
I always
networking.
tell people, man, it's like everyone thinks that working for their dream company is so hard.
No.
Well, yes, I would say no, but it's hard for a reason because everyone wants to do it. So you have to do the extra thing to go and do it.
Correct.
So for me,
nobody wants to do.
No one wants to do, or they don't know how to do.
Which is okay to an extent, but you just have to then seek that guidance.
Exactly. So it's like, how do you do that? So for me, again, the Cowboys was the big one. So I literally showed my spreadsheet after this. I talked to every single employee on the sales team for the Cowboys, every single person. And again, that's the extra mile. So by the time my name comes up in the interviews, it goes, oh my God, I know Darsh. Hell, we all know Darsh. Well, it's like we already work with him. Let's bring him on. Like that's literally how I do it, right? So for example, when you translate to your athletic stuff, right? It's like, how can I talk to everyone I want to know? And if everyone has this image of who I am, which is naturally who you actually are, because that's who you're showing yourself as, who you are, then everyone's like, wait, why aren't we working with this guy? Why isn't he already with us? And that's the whole human psychology thing.
That's a huge thing, man, especially in the athlete space. Is reputation's everything. I think in just business, life in general, reputation's everything. Now, that being said, don't get it too confused. You have to be unapologetically yourself, but also to just understand in the back of your mind, how do you want to be remembered as that person?
Yep.
So for me in the athlete space, right, I want to be known as that guy. You know, specifically gymnastics is a sport I'm really fascinated by.
Yeah.
We could get into that, but like,
I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah. So like for me, that space within the college, women's and men's side, how can I be that where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm a gymnast at Florida, or I'm a gymnast at LSU, or even, you know, another school like Arizona, and I see you representing XYZ person, I want to reach out. You know, that happened recently where I had an Arizona gymnast reach out because I was representing one of the gymnasts at Oklahoma, right? So like that just happens by nature. But again, it's the 10,000 hours putting in the work, not having that as the expectation, just providing the value with zero expectations. My biggest thing too, I know we already finished that conversation. Spill. Is when you say you want to provide value, there has to be zero expectations. You know the notion of like, oh, I did something for him, so they got to scratch my back too. No. When you have zero expectations for somebody, it allows you to not be vulnerable to being disappointed.
Yes.
And so I think that's huge. Vulnerability when it comes to that, it needs to be removed. So if you give, don't expect to receive. Because naturally in today's world, it just comes back. Yeah. But you can't have that expectation. You know what I mean, though?
I know. I mean,
it's like, oh, I just connected with this person, so now you got to do something for me. Don't have that expectation. Just do it out of the goodness of your heart. Because if you're saying you're doing them a favor doesn't mean you get something on the back end.
Yes. It means you're just actually helping them out. And I think what I talked about in the last episode was like how do you come off as an authentic giver? And even like what I say is
say that part again?
How do you come off as an authentic giver?
Yeah.
Because even like most people, again, do say like you give, but objectively, like no matter how you spin it, it's human nature to still want something in return. Like you objectively can't help that, right? It's like you're having these calls and like trying to help them, but objectively you're like, oh, well, it would be cool if whatever, right? But again, I agree with you. If you actually can like just not ask, I think the realistic thing is to not ask.
Exactly.
Because I think objectively, no matter who you talk, let's say you talk to someone who knows LeBron, every part of you in the back of your head is like, oh, I really hope he connects me with LeBron. Like even though you're not asking for it, it's human nature to wish. Of course. So the key thing is, again, like as we talked about before, is if you become a good connection with that person, like again, you make them like you. For example, the reason why let's say one of your clients would, let's say, you know, your client at LSU, what's her name?
Annie Beard. Shout out Annie Beard and Nina Ballou, who just is a commit to LSU.
So shout out them, right? So let's say, for example, like if you work with them really, really well and you promote them and you do the right thing, then they are going to want to say, you know, hey, this is my agent. You should do this. But if you're asking them every single week, oh my God, like can you connect me with XYZ? They're like, oh my God, this guy's like trying to like
only using me to get to someone else.
Exactly. But if you actually just show them for like 3 or 4 months or a year, and you're actually giving them like you're a friend and you're giving them real value, what's gonna happen? They're gonna be like, oh my God, my friend's looking for an agent too. You want to help her out? That's how you do it. And it's again, you're not asking because if you just focus on what you're focusing on, things will come back to you. But if you're focusing on trying to get, then again, you're disappointed because it didn't happen. You're like, oh my God, all these things.
And then also too, like people are gonna recognize that you're just a person trying to grab people's lunch.
No one likes that shit.
Right? I'm a big believer of like we do a lot of stuff now, especially like this past year with the Olympics, being an Olympic year. We did a campaign with 2 athletes that weren't even mine. Wow. Right? And it's just like for me, my theme of that is, not the fact that they're Olympians. It's the fact of just providing that value and just like when everybody eats, for some reason it's more enjoyable, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Like if we're watching a game of Dallas Cowboys losing to the Eagles or the other way around.
No chance, yo. No chance.
Or the Cowboys win, right? You'd much rather want to sit and watch it with a lot of guys
of course.
that you actually like, not by yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, that whole I get it. It's friendly competition. I get you want to, outwork everybody. And I still have that mentality myself. Like, I want to be better than,
X. Of course,
but
naturally.
Your success does not come at the expense of others.
Yes, that's the big one. Like, someone else doesn't have to lose for you to win.
Correct. Never.
Yeah.
And I don't care, like, if someone even stole your client. That means they were just a better agent, and you have to approach
you have to get better than them.
You have to approach that as, I hope that, that puts them in the best situation, and if that's what that means, that's what that means. That's what a good representative is as a financial advisor, an agent, a friend. It's you want to just be the best, be of good intent and actions that back that up.
And it's by learning, right? You have to learn from everything. If you think
you're
not personal, exactly. You're never all going to win every single time, but okay, you lost, how you learn from your loss.
Yeah.
But that's why I want to go to some of your wins now. So you talk about this your gymnastics whole campaigns initiative. So talk more about Go Time and actually what is Go Time? Because I know I was looking at doing all the research. I'm like, oh my God, you're doing some pretty insane stuff. So talk more about it. You mentioned Olympians, LSU, gymnastics. All these big athletes. Like, talk more about that. What are you really doing right now with all 100%.
That stuff? Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier in this conversation, how I was doing stuff with I didn't mention I interned at Wasserman, but I did stuff with Limitless and Gerba. I was working for all these different people, right? So I wanted to challenge myself to start, right? And entrepreneurship, I think, is glorified in society. But for me, it was more of like, can I see what am I made of by trying this on my own, right? Because I have the energy that an entrepreneur sometimes it takes. Learning those processes. So started it last summer, and Go Time really is just an athlete and influencer representation space that right now we're focused a lot on the athlete creators and specifically within the women's and men's gymnastics space. And for us, again, like I said, it's just really providing those values from different services. PR, how do you get them on podcasts? Like imagine Grocery Pot, right? Getting them, in sports camps. We did something with Jordan Bowers in Arizona Dynamics and helping her with the community. She, worked this sports camp this past summer with like 300 girls, made a video out of it, right? Very, touching there. And then, like I said, the brand deals obviously is a big aspect. So working with brands like Raising Cane, Samsung, we did a thing with Firehouse Subs. And so, again, it's all those different things, but it's really just like putting the pieces together to like help them be educated on this opportunity of building your personal brand. That's what it's about.
So, it sounds amazing. So how do you do that though on your own? Like, I think right now, right, it's like, I can't imagine we were talking about before. It's like, right now, you're a one-man show. You're doing it. You're trying to
have a couple interns. I got to shout them out. Shout out Brooks, Sam, Justin. There's a couple people that help me behind the scenes with stuff. But
you're the one trying to make it happen. Like,
correct.
So you know what I mean? So how do you do that? How do you actually provide value to them? What are you providing them with? Like, what are you, like, not just saying, like, what you're doing. I don't want that 10,000 feed view anymore. I want to know, what are you actually doing? And how are you, like, actually helping them specifically? Like, if you want to talk about your gymnastics clients, like something specific, because I'd love to hear the actual specific value you're providing and, like, what you're actually doing. Yeah.
Number one is when I got into this space, I realized, and this is a theme I'm going to touch on, is sometimes people are just trying to make athletes money, right? And like money talks to an extent in this space, but how do you actually provide and really have good intents of helping build a brand that they want to build, not that you want to build, so that way it makes more money? What I mean by that is if somebody doesn't want to create this type of content, don't make them have to make that type of content because in the back it's going to make you more money. Build what they actually want to build, because I think authentically that makes it. So to answer your question, it's sitting down. My first intro call, before I even get to the signing part, tell me about yourself. What are you interested in? I have a whole questionnaire that I have them fill out. And like, we don't just like have you fill out and like, oh, this is now a little bit of value. We walk through every single question and I ask them questions that make them a little bit uncomfortable. Okay, so you say you like look at social media as just like an opportunity to post your recruiting highlights or maybe post highlights of your gymnastics. But you said you're interested in like makeup and you said you're interested in like the community. So like, how can we now talk about that? Right? And like, you want to do community service? Great. So it's really getting to know the person, what they care about. Because that's how, social media, fortunately, but unfortunately, is the way to help build your brand. So a lot of athletes are a little bit afraid to post content, but I always tell them, right? If you're not a Caitlin Clark, a Caleb Williams, or a high-level athlete, in football or basketball, social media right now is that tool to help expedite and build your brand to a new level. So on a day-to-day, we're thinking about those different things you're interested in and how that takes form, shape, in content. Right? And so, I'll give a great example. Jordan Bowers, Oklahoma gymnast, super passionate with the military. Like, she has a military background with her family. Super passionate about armed forces, stuff like that. She said when I first met her, that's something that she wanted to give back to in some capacity. So what we did was I said, great, how can we now display that? So it was inspired by like a Fanatics type campaign where she sat down speaking to the camera like this, and we basically made a scholarship in her name for a family who lost their son in combat in Afghanistan. And this girl that was the recipient of the scholarship wants to have her own fashion business one day. Yeah. So that is an example of somebody that it's naturally authentic to them, that what they're passionate about, utilizing their name, image, and likeness, their brand of being an Oklahoma gymnast and a top performer in their sport to help impact something that they're passionate about. Rather than just, hey, I'm going to partner up with McDonald's, post about it on my social, go to McDonald's and get a 20-piece McNuggets. That's not a problem, that example of doing that. But that I'm just trying to say that that's what I'm doing is really, really making it personalized and not just cookie cutter, make day in the life videos, get ready. Find out what it is.
That they actually would be excited to talk about it.
Correct. And like, I'm going to use one of my new clients I just got, Dakota Rivers, basketball creators, really, really focused on like all the different platforms, but YouTube is a strong suit. He's got like 155K plus.
Wow.
For him, his whole thing is like, he has this notion, it's a saying called win today. And so he posts on his Snapchat story, his Instagram story every Wednesday about win today, and people post about it, and he like reposts everybody. That's called building a community, and that's something we talk about. So then how does that take shape for his brand? All right, now everybody's posting about this win today thing, and they're posting on their story of win today at Dakota Rivers. What happens in 5 months when we come out with wristbands that say win today? Who's going to buy that? Right? It's just building that community. You see how it like comes together?
Yeah. I love it.
And so that was a long-winded response, but it's really just as an overarching response, finding what the athlete or the influencer care about and how does that take shape in content and partnerships with brands that we work with, and then ultimately just from a community standpoint, how they get involved.
I mean, I think that's so smart. I think again, the first thing I thought about is like, wow, like it's clearly like a craft. And every time you think about something like this, right, it's how do you, we talk about, I think the whole theme of this podcast so far is going the extra mile. That's what it sounds like. Going the extra mile and be more personable. Sounds like. Yeah. And again, and every agent, as you said, probably does the whole what gets you the most money today thing.
Yeah,
you're taking it one step further. And I think if everything is more personalized, everything gets better. Even with what we're doing at here at Grocery, it's the same thing.
100%.
So how does this even happen to where now you're on this call, now we are working. Let's say I'm working with you, right? I'm working with you now. We've done the questionnaire. We've done the call. Now you don't understand about everything that I've done. How do you make it happen for them?
Yeah, by actually doing the thing. For example, like for a lot of the clients, I look at their social media bios, talk about research, and see like it could be more organized, whether that's their story highlights on Instagram, their bio, how it's typed. Do they have a link tree in their bio with their different brand links that then we could upsell to brands of how many clicks you get, stuff like that. Actually building it for them. So like I'll make a link tree for a client. I'll make their whole Instagram bio. I'll make their Amazon storefront for them and just send it to them and be like, hey, can you put this in their link? And when they look at it, oh my gosh, that makes sense. They just put it in there. And so now their bio is the way that I did it. And I don't do that from like an ego of like, oh, that's my work. Addison Feda has her bio because I told her me. It's more of like actually doing those things that value to help them, because guess what happens? When you go make that ask to them and say, hey, what are your thoughts of working with this brand? They're probably going to be more likely than not to work with them. Or even better yet, if you do make that ask to referral of, hey, I know your teammates with this person, they're going to be that much more inclined because, to your point, what you said earlier, all that work you did for them. So that's how I make it happen, is by actually doing, not talking about it. Another thing too that I prioritize, I wanted to say it on this pod. I don't ever promise an athlete how much money I'm going to make them, or that I guarantee that they're going to work with X brand. Even if I have a contact, let's say at Raising Cane's, or if I had a contact at Nike, I'll never promise them that, you're going to get a signature. You're going to be an NIL athlete for Nike. You're going to have your own shoe. You're going to make 20 bands in the first month. Because again, that goes back to the reputation. It's like, all I promise is I'm going to show up every single day for you, and that you can call me any time of the day. And I've dealt with calls that are related to NIL and how, whether there's payment structure with the brand, there was issue there, or I've dealt with girlfriend problems, boyfriend problems. I've actually had combos like that. People think I'm joking just to like say that. It's really being almost like an advocate and just like someone there in your corner. Being a friend. Obviously keeping it professional, but like that's exactly how I do it for them, is showing up, texting them. Not just hitting them up when there's an opportunity. No, it's real. I love that, man. I feel like, and going to their events too. I didn't mean go. Going to their events. That's something I prioritized this past semester.
Like, how'd you do that? How'd you do that?
So like for me, Jordan, I keep referencing her, but that was like one of the athletes I was primarily working with. Was I promised her when her gymnastics season started this past year in the spring of 2024, I'm gonna make one meet. And so I went and booked a flight, to Oklahoma. That's investment in myself and her family. Met her family. First thing her dad told me was when that military example I used with the scholarship. I'm so thankful you did that. And I know Jordan makes money otherwise through other brand partnerships, but that meant a lot to me. That is fulfillment and success to me. Not about how much money I can make from working with the athletes and utilizing their brand. It's that moment when the family or dad comes up to me. It's very fulfilling because it's like I'm helping people, right? Yeah. So it's going to their meets. I've gone to NCAA national championships. When it was Annie's birthday, we had something, with Jerpa. That was like a dynamic there. Again, shout out Austin. Like, it's doing the little things and showing up for them and being in person because that's what they care about at the end of the day, right? Yes, they want to make money. Yes, you want to have these opportunities. But more than not, they don't want to just feel like, oh, I never hear from my agent. I only hear from him when it's like a brand partnership.
Business time,
I can't even They
don't feel like that actual line of communication is actually there to where it can be a normal hit up.
Correct, because their age difference is so different where you have a lawyer that's maybe 40 or 50 years old talking to a 19-year-old. That's where I found the opportunity for me was I'm 22. I'm not a lawyer, but guess what? I'm in your class. So there's a personability and understand the aspect versus a 40-year-old that's just like in his office, yo, I got this deal with you for Adidas. They don't even know what, they don't even know how to make an Instagram reel. So
seriously.
Again, I'm not trying to crap on the industry. It's great. I have mentors that are unbelievable. Shout out Mark Lionweaver. Shout out Michael Raymond. There's a lot of people I look up to in the space. But
and again, I mean, for one, it sounds like you got this on lock, man. You've been thinking about it for a long time. For me, it's crazy because I think for you to have figured this out so young, I'm giving you the props, man, because I think so many people can think of how to be a good agent or whatever, how to be a good representative, but you've thought through levels and levels and levels of this. And where does that come from for you? Is this how did you get this idea? But where is this drive? That's what I'm really fascinated by because you're a super passionate person. I think remind me of myself a little bit, but you're super passionate and you clearly are super obsessed with this. You've thought about it to a really deep level. Where does that come from?
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words. I think my desire, I've always been since I especially got to college and who I've surrounded myself around with, that was the biggest thing is when I got to college, I wanted to surround myself. I always say be the dumbest one in the room. And don't take that literally, but you know what I mean? It's surround yourself around older. So being around people that already had businesses, that already had something cooking up in college, that inspired me. And that curiosity to be how far can this go? It's not about, hey, can I exit a company for $100 million or can I do X, Y, Z? It's more about my self-discovery of who I am as a person. Because let me tell you something right now. Tell me. I've learned more about myself as an individual and how the person I want to be than anything about, I can make this much money by doing this business plan or by doing this pivot. That is great things, but I carry the person of who I am and learning that discovery more. And I think that's what entrepreneurship has taught me rather than, corporate America is great. And if that's what some of you want to do, great. But I didn't personally find that I felt like I was limiting my potential by being in that bubble. Because I love shooting those ideas. And ideas are great, but now you have to act on it. That's something that, a lot of the guys in college that I was around, and I mentioned some of them, taught me is I was always the guy that ideation. And sometimes I still sometimes I still struggle with it. It's
ideas,
big ideas, but then all right, so how are you going to execute on it? So that's something I've really prioritized over the last year is how do we execute on that? And so I would say it's just a curiosity to who do I want to become, right? At the end of the day, if I'm
who do you want to become?
I want to be the guy that if it's within athletes and influencers, if it's within another industry, whatever the case is, I want to be known as the guy that was just unapologetically himself, truly was invested in the relationships that he built. And third, a guy that showed up and never really wavered, despite other obstacles that came. But what I mean by that is understanding that, feel those struggles, but you can't undermine who you are as an individual. I think a lot of times people like to sink in their problems, and I've been guilty of that plenty of times. Why me? Why not? First of all, if you weren't put in that position, you're put in that position because other people can't handle that problem. So be fortunate. I'm grateful as heck. I haven't made boatloads of money at all with Go Time yet, right? But I'm grateful for the opportunity that I grew up in a situation from a family standpoint, from a college standpoint, the environments I was in, to even start a business. There's people that die and itch to literally hit send on LegalZoom to create that LLC. But they just don't have the financial whatever, opportunities to do so. So that's what I want to become, is that guy that really just is actually truly trying to be a good dude. And recently I've gotten more into my faith, so I also want to do this. This is not my work. This is God's work. So I know that might come off like, oh, God did. But like seriously, it's like I truly am getting into that feeling of like, how can God put me in a position to help impact, in this scenario, athletes, to get closer with who they are as individuals. Yeah.
I mean, I love this, man. Like, I feel like, again,
this is good, man.
No, I mean, even the whole self-discovery thing, I agree with you.
I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, I even like that, what I've said to everyone is my last year doing this has taught me more about myself than 3 or 4 years at college doing internships, working for someone else, and all that stuff. Not saying, again, the corporate idea is a bad thing. Nope. But why spend 40, 50, 60 hours of your week trying to grow someone else or trying to figure out what their problems are when you can be figuring out things about yourself? Right. And that's why I look at it, I'm like, again, maybe this is crazy in both of us, but I think if you do a good job, you'll make money no matter what. So why?
The world's abundant.
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
Money's a tool. Like let's not be. Yeah. Let's be honest. If you want to start, if you're very like philanthropic, obviously I've had this conversation with like friends. Yeah. Obviously, yes, you do have to have money to like start your own charity or like make a school or buy your mom a house. Like I get that. Yeah. But it's a tool to buy back time. Like I'm more interested in controlling my time. Because let me tell you something, when you don't control your time and time controls you, that is very, for me, scary, and it's just, it's almost sad, you know?
And especially when that time is not going to where you want it to be. Correct. Again, sometimes working in corporate you don't love necessarily. It's like, now I got to go up. I got to drive 2 hours there and back to a place I don't even want to go to.
But if you realize that it's for you, bro, I don't even want to cut you off.
No, go.
It's like self-awareness, bro. Yes, at the end of the day, it's self-awareness. Yes. If you know that
is what's right for you. Everyone's different. Everyone's different on that.
Everybody. If you know that you want to do 9 to 5 because that's how you function, then you want to go home and have practice with your kids at football, basketball, and have that dynamic and put your kids to bed, great. If you want to be that entrepreneur that understands that maybe for some time you're going to have a little bit of unbalance, whether that's relationships-wise, whether that's fitness-wise, there's going to be a little bit of unbalance. The reality is too many people are doing things just because whether it looks flashy or because they're supposed to. And if people started doing more inner work.
Yes, bro, I'm telling you, yo.
Dude, the amount of problems, when people complain, oh, I don't like my job. Okay, so do something about it. Yeah. You can leave. Yeah. Free will. Yeah. And if you're like, well, I don't want to leave, then you have to suck it up, right? I think there's not enough of that. And by the way, I'm saying all this because I was that kid for 3 years in college that used to complain, oh, why me? Oh, I don't go out because I'm interested in doing work. You got to give or take, right? Yeah. And I still, like I said, I'm being vulnerable on this spot. I'm not here to do PR stuff. I'm real. I struggle with that stuff sometimes where I find myself, the business right now, we're working. There's so many opportunities, but I'm overwhelmed. Dude, take things with a grain of salt. Relax.
Agree. It's hard, dude. I mean,
sorry, I mean to cut you off. No, you're not cutting me off. I had to get that off my chest.
I love it, man. I think the inner work thing is something I really want to talk about because I think again, so many people do stuff again not because they don't want to, but because they don't know how to do their own thing, and they're this is where my thought goes right away to this. I think some people have so much potential, and people and then those basement conversations you have with your friends where it's we're all dreaming for that hour or two. It's oh my god, I wish we gotta start something or we gotta do something. That is the moment where you're all fired up, you're inspired. And then you hear them say the day after on Monday morning, oh my God, I gotta go to work today. I gotta do all this BS. That kills me, by the way. It kills me. And it killed me because I was actually that guy doing it. And why was I working for LinkedIn doing all this stuff? Because I was sold that was the right thing to do. I was sold that, you're supposed to work for a good company, get all these benefits, all these things where it's oh my God, the food there is great. Yeah. The
building's nice.
Yeah, I'm out on the river. I'm in Chicago. I'm sold that was good. I was sold that. And I got to work, and I'm so glad because they're they're the second best company to work for. Yeah. All these benefits. Not a big deal, by the way. Yeah, all these benefits, all this shit. But I was sold. This is the less than a 1% acceptance rate, all these things. Yeah. And then I was there for a year, and I was like, yo, I'm not in control of my time. I'm not in control of my mission of growth. And I was like, yo, this is nothing is a trap by any means, but this is not what I wanted to do. Yeah. And it's so funny because you see the Instagram page. It's all Friday beers or whatever, and people will post on Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Why are you so happy it's Friday?
I've never understood that saying.
Why are you so happy? Why are you so happy that your week is over?
I've never understood that.
That to me is crazy. That you had such a long week of whatever that you're so excited to be done with what you spend 40 hours of your week doing.
Right. And then you know what they do? They go and sit down and watch 8 hours of Netflix. Yeah. One thing that I've never got addicted to or had a guilty pleasure of was Netflix or TV. I don't understand. Great. only thing I glue myself to is when Penn State football, the Philadelphia Eagles run. That's it. I can't binge watch. Maybe that's because the ADHD in me where I don't have the focus to watch, TV show. Yeah. But again, to your point, man, it's like, it's not about like, I'm not telling you have to do entrepreneurship because you're working for someone else's dream.
I agree.
It's all self-awearness about what you want. You can't do what other people.
I agree with you. What I'm saying is, if you're someone who is like, not to, again, we're gonna keep it. If you're someone that's bitching and moaning about your life, like
that's your problem.
Not even your problem. Like you have the ability to go and change things.
Correct.
Like I just don't like, again, two things. I don't like when I see someone who has potential doing something that they shouldn't be doing. That shit just irks me. I'm like, you can be so great. Why are you doing this? That's one thing. Second thing is the whole thinking like, oh my God, it's Monday, I gotta do this. Oh my God, it's Friday, thank God. Or oh my God, I hate this. I have to drive. My commute is an hour or two. Like those, again, I get it because life, people are gonna complain.
Of course, every day, everybody's gonna have bad days. Nobody's perfect.
What I'm saying is like the worst thing is when someone works for somewhere so long, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been here for a year. I waste all this time. Like if you're doing something, whether it's corporate, whether it's as long as you are aware this gets you closer to your goal or self-discovery again in yourself. Yeah. Like that, like I just hate when people are like doing something they don't want to do,
right?
Or they're not supposed to be doing, and like you can see it on their face. Yeah. Because like I asked someone about their job. And they just like, they're like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, when I hear that, it's horrible. Why wouldn't you? I think Nicole Lynn, shout out Nicole. She's a agent. I look up to her a lot. Yeah. I gain a lot of wisdom. She represents, some of the biggest NFL biggest NFL athletes, namely Jalen Hurts, right? Yeah. She has a book that she wrote, and she says something around the lines of, people are just, when you have all these goals and aspirations, but you have no vision or like actually a point, you're just working and living to die. And she always says like that should shake people to the core. You are literally on this planet. You have one life. It's 1 in a trillion chance that you're actually born, and you're literally you're just working and living to die. Yeah. Like that should strike you crazy. Yeah, for me it does. Facts. And again, it's not about if success to you is for me success is this. I'm gonna be straight up. Yeah. If I make $46,000 a year and I'm able to pay my personal and business expenses, which I understand are necessary, and I wake up on Monday in March 16th and I'm happy with what I'm doing, that's success. Now, if your success is I make $100,000 a year because I get to go on a family trip once a year, 2 weeks to Turks and Caicos with my family, I might not like my job, but I'm more so concerned about the cash that provides me to go do that experience. Yeah,
that's good.
It's both success. The reality is, it's again, what do you define as success? Yes. It could be happiness. It could be money. Like, I don't really care about what the source is. It's just you need to know what's in it for you. Too many people are just like trying to keep up with the Kardashians, bro. Yeah. Like, great show. Yeah. Like, great job. But like, other than that, really. But so then, how did you? Kardashian's about to hit me up. Like,
take this down. Report. But how did you figure this out for that? Like how did you become self-aware? Because I think
being the kid that was insecure for 3 years. Not to cut you off.
Talk about that.
My bad.
No, talk about it. Talk about it,
bro. You got me flowing.
Yeah, talk about it.
It's by being. I was that insecure kid, bro. I'm gonna be so like I keep saying I'm gonna be so straight up. Yeah. My freshman year when I got to college, I literally called this one kid almost every day. I actually have not really spoke about this actually, so this is a little like new. Yeah. I used to call this kid like a lot, probably like 2-3 times a week, and literally would say, "Is my outfit look good today?" Like I used to ask for that much validation. Yeah. Or be like, "Yo, how does this email message look?" And look, that's okay. Maybe you're getting guidance, but like literally little things. It'd be like, "Yo, you gotta like relax a little bit and like stop trying to be so perfect." Because when you are thinking too much, you're slow. Yeah. Whether that's in business, whether that's in your personal life. When you're thinking about it too much, same thing with the gym, dude. When I walked in the gym, I would not be able to go to the gym. I would not go to the gym unless I was with somebody that was like, more like jacked or whatever, just so like I felt like I knew what I was doing. Even if I knew what I had to do because they already showed me. Like I couldn't just go on my own. Yeah. So it was actually being that kid that was really insecure until an individual by the name of Brad Kraut came into my life. Shout out Kick the Sheets Academic Weapon. And he knows what conversation I'm talking about. It was in Austin's apartment, and like he just straight up told me like, dude, I'm not gonna lie, like you're just acting like a piece of crap right now, and like you're caring way too much about what people think, and like honestly, it's disrespectful to yourself, and like until you figure out on your own, like don't hit me up. And from that day on, I just stopped, progressively, like slowly but surely, stopped caring about what people thought and started taking action. So Brad knows how I feel about that when it means like what he's done for me on that aspect. But obviously, ultimately, it came into my self-desire to do that. But yeah, man, I used to care a lot. And there's still, look, I care about what people that are close to me and that I validate.
Yes.
I care about their opinions, what they care.
Yeah.
But some Joe Schmo that comments on my or sends my podcast or something I post on Snapchat and screen records and sends it to the buddy of like, yo, who's this guy? I don't really care because at the end of the day, you're still watching.
Yeah. Yeah, you're giving me awareness, bro. You're helping me.
You're helping me. So I guess to answer your question, that's really what it is, man. I was that kid.
Yeah.
And so for anybody out there that feels like deep down you want to be an artist, deep down you want to be a photographer, but you don't want to post or you don't want to do whatever, you need to take. Because you know what's funny?
Yeah.
Really funny. A lot of people know, not maybe always know, but they at least have some sense of what it takes for what they want to do, right? Meaning, like, you might not have the direction, but you're like, hey, I want to be this. You know the steps you have to take. Wake up. Yeah. But you just don't do it. So, like, again, it's like getting that uncomfortable, but
nah, dude.
Spewing. You are good. I'm not even just saying this because I'm on the as a guest. You are a good facilitator of conversations.
I mean, I appreciate it, man. I mean, my whole thing is like I just treat everyone like you're a friend to me now. Man. That's the whole thing. Likewise. So it's like the same way we're talking now is I think if these cameras weren't rolling, we'd be talking about the 100%. Same way. So that's how I look at it.
And that's why I'm trying to be vulnerable as well on here. Is like this is not here. Like,
let's just ignore the lights. That's the whole point of this. I mean, for me, it's like we're gonna talk anyway on Wednesday. So who cares if his camera's rolling or not? But I mean, I love that. I think so many people. Again, it's so. I mean, I talk about the whole ignorance is bliss thing because it's true.
Wait, say that again.
Ignorance is bliss, and
that's a lot. I've never heard that.
Yeah, a lot of people live by that, where it's like you know, they know shit in their life is not going well, or the things that they don't want to do, like a bad relationship, you know, a bad job, a bad whatever. But they'll just somehow their mind is trained to ignore that and be happy with what is, and then one day they realize, oh my God, you know the whole midlife crisis things comes from that. It comes from that ignorance where they're like, the last 4 years they've been in this relationship or this job that they fucking hate, and then they wake up one morning and they're like, they get fired or they get broken up with, and they're like,
done.
Oh my God, like everyone was right. These thoughts I kept pushing away were right, whatever. And that's why I think when it comes to you and your self-awareness, I give you so much credit because it's a hard thing to do.
It is.
And it allows you to feel like you're actually living the life you want to live. Because I think so many people, again, like the number one thing, people who are about to die when they're old, the one thing they always say is, I wish like I spent more time doing what I wanted to do. That's the number.
Wish. You hear that?
Yeah, I wish. Or like the number of things I didn't have, I wish I didn't have any regrets. Before they say anything about like how they treated their family or their friends, the number one thing that everyone on their deathbed says is, I wish I did more with what I wanted to do, or I wish I chased my dream. I wish I didn't have regrets. And like that to me again is like, again, so many little things, like people have like these near-death experiences. People actually die or someone they know dies. Like, so one of my friends who edits my cameras, one of his close friends, his younger brother, just died in a car accident. And to me, that's like, bro, imagine you die tomorrow in a car accident and you're you're either remembered, or let's say you're someone you know and they're remembered for just being another person. Or like, that to me is like, I don't want to die being like, oh yeah, he was just a good guy. Like, sure.
Just to get by. Yeah, and to that
it's like you're supposed to like be like do you like, again, you see, you don't watch Netflix. It's funny because like I'm someone who like loves TV.
Which is nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing. But I don't like watching stuff that's like, you know, very like The Office shit. Like that's like like that shit pisses me off. People who watch that show, because I'm like,
no, they did the fun fact. That's my mom's hometown. That's where they
no way. That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, but shows like that, I'm like that's like brain rot, dude. Like I'm so serious, yo. I'm like, you're watching this to just watch a little bit of humor for 30 minutes, but like I'll watch things that inspire me.
Like what?
For example, you know, have you ever watched Silicon Valley or no?
I have not.
Watch it. It's like literally this whole business
Actually,
thing.
we're going to put it on the to-do list right now while you're talking.
No, so Silicon Valley is a show about, and again, I think you end up watching what somehow resonates with you. I watch things that I like to inspire me, whether it's characters, whether it's heroes, whether it's whatever. This show, because of my business, bro, I end up watching this show. It's about a guy who lives in, you know, San Francisco. It's about him building a company from zero. About him being like the bitch at his job. Everyone's making fun of him. To him literally making a company that everyone made fun of. And it's his story from that to building this $5 billion company. You would love it, honestly. You would love it.
I just put it in my notes.
No, actually, I'm obsessed with it. I watched it, and it inspired me, all these things, right? And again, another thing I watched, a show called One Piece. I'm sure you heard of it, right? The anime. I thought I was the biggest. I used to just joke about, oh my God, you watch anime, you're a weirdo, all that shit. But the show literally, right? But the show is about like an individual person, as like a pirate, right? He's an average kid, whatever. And it's about his entire journey going from this one, you know, little skinny kid to him building these crewmates, going on these journeys and becoming this dream person. And I think like a lot of what that comes from is everything you should be doing things that are like aligned with your life vision. And again, I get like short term stuff, like if you want to watch Office because it's fun and all, and it's like eating a cookie. After you watch episode of The Office, you're never like afterward like, yo, you guys watch episode of The Office, yo, I'm so excited, yo, that was good. No one does that, right? No one does that shit. Right? Like who does that? Actually, who does that?
You got a personal thing for The Office.
I'm serious though. Or who does something like that and is so fired up? No, you're not.
Yeah.
But if let's say you do something, whether you have a good conversation, you network with someone, or you watch an informational YouTube video about how to get famous on Instagram,
or how to edit videos.
How to edit videos, dude. I never had cameras. I've never edited.
Talk about that.
Yeah, dude. No, I'm keeping it real. Like, I've never done any of this before. I've never edited video. All the TikTok clips you see, I do that myself. Never edited videos. Never created a website. Never did any of this shit. But after I learned how to do it, or after I watched the video, I'm like, oh my God, I want to go do this now.
Yep.
Right? And that's the feeling that gets you like life. That's what gives you life, right? Because I think again, maybe I'm wrong, but I innately do believe that everyone is has a dream or was a dreamer at some point, and either you're living it or you have it on pause, or you cut that idea out because you think you can't do it. And I think that everyone should be doing the dream. I'm really big on that. And I think, I don't know, it just pisses me off when people don't do that.
Right, and I got to say, no, that was good. And what I have to say about the dream aspect is, look, it's not about always the cliche of it's not about the what you get, meaning the destination, it's about the journey, right?
Yeah.
Like the cliche, but the reality is that's what it actually is about. So if your goal is to literally build a business from 0 to 60 or whatever the number is to get you a Lamborghini or to pay for a house for your mom, that's great. But what I find so fascinating about whether it's those type of goals or it could be anything is once you get it, you're actually not fulfilled because your appetite builds up. So rather than I personally am not have one thing where it's I want to have this, so then you get that. Obviously I have big goals of
so what is it? So yeah.
So for example, my ultimate life goal, right? This is getting real deep.
Go deep.
My sister has special needs, right? So for me, I want to be that person. Marquise Godwin is the one that inspired this in me. NFL football player his sister has the same type of, syndrome when it comes to special needs. And obviously he utilized football to help financially support his sister. And now his sister lives with him and she has her own care, nurse, stuff like that. I want to do the exact same thing in my own way. Right. Because when my parents told me, hey, she's going to be in a home when she gets a certain age. And, I know what happens in those homes. No disrespect. There's great care. There's great nurses. I'm not knocking. Yeah. But I don't want her sitting there for 5 hours a day just flipping on an iPad. No, she's going to be in my home, and she's going to have a nurse that's going to take care of her. And, they can go home and, obviously, rotate and whatnot. But that's my ultimate life goal. So now reverse engineer that. If that's the goal, how do I do that? Mm-hmm. By waking up every single day and doing things that align with that. Yeah. That's doing things that I care about. That's doing things I know is putting me in the right direction, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter what industry you go into. People, that notion of I know we were talking about the career stuff earlier, I should go, what's the most trending industry, or what's the most innovative, what's hot right now? Should I go into supply chain because it's
AI?
A good time?
Should I do AI?
Is it a good time to go into that?
Yeah.
You should go into all the successful people we talk about, the Warren Buffetts, the Sam Altmans, Jack Dorsey's, Gary V's. They did it for the love of the game. They weren't actually doing it because that was what's flashing. That's where I can get a quick buck. I think that's what's so frustrating today is people are so interested in getting into an industry that either pays good or they know they can utilize, but you don't even care about it.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how I went on that.
No, it's real though. But I think going off that, it's hard though. I think, dude.
100%. Because anything worth obtaining,
I agree.
It takes pain. When have you ever had fulfillment by being oh great, I know I can shoot free throws, so I'm gonna be a basketball player. I know I am good with free throws, so I'm just gonna continue to shoot free throws. But when you make the basket, it doesn't mean anything. But if it was hey, I really, really struggle with my right hand dribbling, so I'm gonna put in that work, and it's gonna be painful, or I struggle with endurance. But what happens on that championship game when you had the endurance to then make that game winning? I don't know if that was the best example.
No,
but
it makes sense.
There's never enjoyment. David Goggins talks about it all the time. I think people misconstrue him a lot about tough guy and all this thing. His principle of what he's trying to get at is nothing good in life comes by knowing the answer and being easy. Yeah. He was the fat kid in his school, and people made fun of him that he worked pest remove control. And his motive for him personally was, I want to show that you can go from being a fat kid that does pest control, which no disrespect to pest control, to being a Navy SEAL. And having speech impediment, all the things. what's his name from the Olympics? Noah Lyles. You see that post? I have asthma, I have ADHD, I have anxiety, I have all these things. And look, now he's one of the fastest guys in the world and won a gold medal.
Yeah.
So your limitations and what you have, your problems, like don't use it as a crutch.
It's a barrier. It's a hurdle. That's all you have to look at it as.
Like use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
I have ADHD, but advantage of ADHD is I can go quick, boom, 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 boom. Decided to do the podcast. I don't have to think about it. There's always look at the positive. Like I don't think looking at the negative. And look, it's not roses and prettiness and Lyles. I don't want to paint that picture of like positivity and like we're gonna have rainbows. It's gonna be a pain, but it's like knowing while you're in that pain who you are as a person. That's what you got to rely on. Yeah. Not the actual like.
I agree, and I think a lot of it is also like once you get that self-awareness, figuring out how to do what figuring out, okay, this is what I'm good at. Let me like actually spend that time on what I'm good at, right?
So are you an advocate of that? Is like doing what you care about, or doing what you're good at?
I mean, that's not good at necessarily, but it's doing what you're passionate about. Like that's what I believe. Because I'm the kind of person where if I'm not passionate about it, dude, like I'm not doing it. Like I didn't get my whole first semester in college, my whole first year. My first A in college came in my sophomore year in dinosaurs class because I thought dinosaurs were cool. But you couldn't pay me to study for a shit. You couldn't do it because that's the way I am. I'm not passionate about it. Even like again, you could give me like $100,000 to do whatever for if I had to do 80 hours a week, that'd be cool. But I'm not gonna wake up and do it because I love it. But again, what I will do is I'll be passionate about doing what I love because I'm good at that. Because not because I'm good at it, because I actually want to do it, right? And like, I'll wake up and I'll be excited to do it. One thing I always tell my parents is funny because, again, I struggled a lot. How you would say you struggle. Like for me, my first semester in college, it was like the worst experience of my life. Like I didn't have, dude. For me, it was like, dude, I was like fat as shit. I broke up with my first girlfriend. That was a whole thing. I know friends had to restart my entire life. And I came home with my mom, only person I really get super vulnerable with. And I was like crying. I was like, yo, I feel like I'm wasting all your investment in me, your trust in me. Like, I feel like a loser. What am I doing? And then she said, give me the best advice ever. She was like, you just have to figure out like what will make you excited? Like, what do you want to do? Because she like apologized to me. She was like, I'm sorry that we were pushing this whole doctor thing on you. And like, because I never knew what I wanted to do for myself. I was like you, where I just love sports. Like that's literally all. I was in high school. Literally all I cared about was sports. I would watch NFL Network every day after school. I memorized all the 53-man rosters. I was obsessed with sports, whatever. So I went to college, and they were like, "All right, do all these things." I was like, "Sure, I'll do it." Because in high school, I just did what they told me, get good grades.
Yeah, it's just you're assigned your classes.
But I wasn't the kid who studied hard and prepared, did homework. I was the kid who figured out any way I could cheat or get like finesse just so I could just get it done.
Resources.
No, but literally,
Open AI.
Literally. I was like, bro, if they had AI when I was in school, bro, it'd be raps. But my whole thing was like, but what I was passionate about, I did. So that's what my whole thing was. So once I figured out like I could actually do that, which I was never allowed to do growing up for whatever reason, I was never encouraged to do my passion. Like that was like a thing. Like I don't like
because usually it's unrealistic.
I was encouraged to as a hobby. Like my mom would say, "Oh, I wish you drew more. I wish play on the basketball team." But it was never you should be an NFL commentator or you should. That was like a dream, right? So then when I had that conversation with her, she was like, "Why don't you try for a semester like doing what you want?" And that changed everything. I was like, all right, so I want to work in sports business. That was my thing. And that's where it really took off for me. I was like, all right, I want to talk to people. I want to work in sports. I want to do that. And that changed my entire life around. And I realized I started working toward my goal. And every day I was like, I'm on a mission. Like I'm on an actual mission. And sometimes you get sidetracked on that mission. When I went to LinkedIn, I realized that I'm on my mission, but the mission took me where I didn't want to go anymore. So how do I figure out how to get realigned with what I want to do?
Yeah, and
that's where I am now. Yeah, and that's what I'm doing what I am now. And my whole thing with everyone is like, I think no matter what, if you're doing what you like to do, the failures will be a lot more enjoyable than if you're doing something you don't want to do. Why fail in something you fucking hate?
And you know you hate.
Then to fail at something that you love. Because if you fail something you hate, you're going to hate it more the next day. But if I fail something like this, right? Like, dude, I'll give you a context, for example. This one girl I know, her name is Ume Habiba. Shout out Ume, she's awesome. Yeah, and we both started this at the same time. She started her own career influencing me maybe a couple months before me. And I started my whole thing on January 1st. We both had around 1,000 followers total in like February or March. Right now, she's at 62,000 followers. She was on a billboard in Times Square, and she might make, I think, a couple $100 per social media post just for advertising jobs. I still only have, on Grove Street's Instagram page, 300 followers. I get maybe a couple thousand views per clip, and I'm doing that. And it's so easy for me to, be like, I'm a failure compared to this chick who's doing insane shit. Like why? And I know my videos have more high production quality, more times going into it. So I'm like, I'm a I can look at I'm a failure, but I know that if this was me failing at a job compared to something that's doing better than the job is me that I hated, I would not give a shit. I wouldn't care to get better. But for me, I'm like, you know what? Like I can I'm not looking at this as like today I'm a failure. I'm like, okay, I can do this. She's clearly doing. I can get better at it. I can go and achieve this thing. So I think like failing something you're passionate about, and I'm excited too. I'm like, I want to be. I'm trying to chase you, bro. Yeah. Because I'm trying to, like LeBron trying to chase Jordan. I'm like, I'm trying to chase like her and other people that's successful.
You're trying to chase. And I also think for me personally, I'm trying to chase like that person that when
I want to be. I want to chase my future self. Like that's exactly what it is.
Like for me, I want to chase that person so that when I like pass away, whatever you believe in, whether you go to heaven, whatever you believe in, I want to look at that person that God puts up or whoever you believe in and says, I'll be like, all right, yeah. You might not recognize. I don't want to be that person that doesn't recognize that person and be like, holy cow, they're a stranger. Yeah. You want to be like, hey, you're not going to get every. Also, too, like something I've realized, you might not get every little thing out of life, but that's also not meant to be, right? If you got everything you ever wanted, then where's the gratefulness aspect?
Yeah, facts.
Like literally, like people are like, oh, be grateful for what you have. No, that's true. Like be grateful for what you have because you can't have everything. And it's so funny is when you get all the things you thought you wanted. Doesn't matter. Like I think one thing with athletes really quick too about the views that you said. Yeah. They're so concerned when it comes to like athletes that I work with. It's like, oh, I don't have X amount of followers or I'm not getting X amount of views. So why should I post on social media? Or, I'm only getting paid $500 from this brand deal. So I don't want to put in that work versus my teammate who makes 20,000 on one post. It's just like focus on you. No one else's success has anybody
to do with you other than
you're
inspiration.
Spending so much time. Ready? I think this would be a bar.
Drop a bar.
You're pontificating or you're like debating the outcome of a game in the national anthem part.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Why are you pontificating about the outcome of a game in the national anthem part? Yeah. Like focus on the game because again, naturally things are gonna happen. Like one of my closest friends who's an athlete and also does the content stuff, he had creative burnout, and I know he's cool with me talking about that because he was focused on the views, and the views were driving him where he was getting millions of views, right?
Yeah.
But at core, he didn't even like the content he was posting. Nobody knew that.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, to your point, with Grocery Pod, you might have 300 followers, but guess what? You're doing what you love, so guess what? Yeah. If society, in a societal term, it's failure, you'd rather fall on your own stone than someone else's stone. Because let me tell you something.
Exactly true, yes.
Let me tell you something. Everybody's trying to work for their own goals, so would you rather work for someone else's goal or your own goal?
Exactly.
Reality is be a nice guy, but also focus on yourself first. Because in order to be selfless, you have to be selfish.
Yeah. No, that's real. I agree with you. I think, again, going back to the whole failure thing, it's like, again, I just go back to the one quote. Bro. Yeah, it's like, I don't look at it as a failure. Is my whole point. If it's something for yourself, it's not a failure. It's just another hurdle, right? But if you fail for something, for example, like the whole we're talking about the whole corporate stuff. And again, I'm not trying to like say that's bad or anything.
Yeah, we're not knocking it.
Yeah, I'm not because everyone has something different. But like, let's say you hate that or whatever, and you're gonna let your boss who you've been trying to impress for a year, and then after you work maybe 2,000 hours in a year, let them tell you that you suck at your job after you spent all this time working. Like imagine that. And then all that time you thought you were growing and getting better, like we're just told that it wasn't. And then you're like, wait, I did all this to impress one person. And that one person doesn't care and thinks I suck. Could you imagine what that feels like? Like that's probably one of the worst feelings. Whereas for you, it's like for me, it's like, all right, it's been 8 months. And I look at where I started. I told you it's on the phone. I look at that first episode I ever made. And I look at what we have here now. Crazy. And I'm like, I'm going to have, again, 10,000 views, but I had 300 views. Now I have 5,000 views. Like that's I'm not saying it's the best success, but it sure as hell ain't failure. And I know what the one thing is, I know it's growth. So if I can focus on me getting 1% better every day, I know it's going to succeed. So one thing, again, like I want to kind of shift gears here a little bit. Is I want people now probably feeling a little inspired. I'm hoping people feel inspired watching this right now. Man. So one thing I want to kind of hear more about you is like, how can people who want to do what you do get started? Like, because I think what I really believe in, as you said, like people don't have to lose for people to win. So there's no point, in my opinion, about gatekeeping success, gatekeeping your thoughts and whatever. I'll tell people whatever you called me, and you were like, hey, how do you do this shit? Yeah. One guy called me 2 weeks ago. His name is Iram from Conversations of China, another big podcast. He's like, yeah, so how do you do this? And he's bigger than me, but he asked me how I do this. So how do you how does someone in college or someone who graduated or someone who's 35 and wants to start this now,
Yeah,
how do they start, man? How do they become do what you do? What you do?
I would use this thing. It's called www.google.com, and then when you search something, you look up what is LinkedIn and start reaching out to people on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And just like if you're in college, go up to that kid in the class, whether it's athletes. Like it could be any type of industry. Like go up to your professor if you want to be in Wall Street. Go up to your finance professor. Right? Like Penn State, shout out Penn State. They have a great alumni association. Like if you're there, go up to them in office hours. You don't need to just go to office hours because you don't understand what the time value of money means. No, you go up to them because you want to learn, hey, I know you worked in Wall Street as an analyst for 5 years at BlackRock. Can you talk to me more about it? Then you start that journey. So I think whatever it is that you're interested in, finance, healthcare, whatever it is just surrounding yourself in those uncomfortable environments and being vulnerable.
Yes.
Look, I don't have all the answers because I think a lot of times people too, they want to like feel like they have to have knowledge about it to like be like worthy of like asking or in that room and having conversation. You could go up to like Dallas Cowboy. You go up to Dak Prescott's sports agent. I know we're talking a lot about that just because that's what I'm involved in. And be like, hey, you know what? Just cold call him, right? Cold call him. Be like, hey, I am a kid at Penn State. I would love if I could just have 5 minutes. Please just like tell me, like provide me some guidance and see where the conversation goes. So I think that's how you start is by just like putting yourself in those uncomfortable rooms. That's how I started. 2 hockey players, shout out Ben and Danny. I went up to them in class. I knew them from, one of my buddies, Jimmy, who was on the hockey team. I was just like, yo, I want to help you guys out. Let's just talk. Just see where it goes.
You might as well take the shot. Who cares? See what happens. But again, like even
that's how you start, man. With anything.
And the worst, and even it's funny because even the most uncomfortable thing, even if let's say you message 1,000 people and no one responds, you're at least getting advanced in like outreach and like learning how to do like how to go. Like, you're still growing even though you don't think you're growing, which is a big thing.
And what's the worst thing that happens?
They say no. Whatever.
They say no. Like I'll give you a great example. I cold called a very well-known agent. I won't say his name just because now I have that relationship. Like represents some of the top NFL guys, namely Micah Parsons. So if someone wants to do the research to find out, I cold called him one day. Now, like he's in my phone, right? Like people are like, oh my God, you have his phone. No, it's just like again, like put yourself out there. Because my thing again is if you whatever you want to do. How could someone know that you want to do that if you're not putting yourself out there?
If you're not if you're not actually acting.
When people are like, I don't want to tell people, I'm too scared. Well, then how's someone going to know you want to do that? How are you going to get opportunities?
Objectively, You
don't have to be an extrovert to put yourself out there.
You don't.
Everybody has it their own way. If you're not going to do it in person, do it on a DM. Do it on LinkedIn, to your point. So just, oh my man, this fires me up. I love this stuff. It's just like, you really can start. Nobody's stopping you but you. And that's so cliche, but it's so true. Like you think that, because this person, that person has it, like, I'm not qualified. That when people tell me that, by the way, when they're like a freshman, sophomore, like, I don't have enough experience or I don't have any internships. So like, who am I? And like you start somewhere.
And most people think that they have to have experience.
You have to have some up front. No, but you're trying to get
it's actually your innate value and like your actual like energy you give off that's the most attractive to anyone.
Correct, because guess what? Having an internship and intern at the number one company is a commodity for the people that got to intern there. But who you are as an individual is the actual asset. That's why I said earlier about people are the ROI of life. That's what actually is the asset. Commodity is like, you could be a financial analyst, you could be whatever. Like it's commodity.
No, that's real. And I think again, like so for what I do is I hire interns all the time, right? So we're hiring our next cohort for the interns for the next school year.
Go.
Yeah, it's pretty hype.
Building, baby.
No, I know. And right now we're actually building campus ambassador programs at different schools. So if you want to help me out with Penn State, let me know.
Let's make it happen, man. Let's get Penn State blowing up.
That's what I'm saying.
Pod in person.
That's what I'm saying. So we'll talk about that. But my whole point with that is like, I'm not trying to find the most objectively best resume or person that hires.
Who's most tapped in?
No, I don't give honestly, I don't give a fuck about that. What I really care about is, okay, like, when they get on the phone with me, who's the most excited to talk? Who has the most who's passionate? Who has dude? One kid, he was interning for me this past summer. When we met on the call, he literally it was for a content creation, like TikToks and stuff like that. He shows up, he pulls up obviously in a full suit, which I was like, wow, kid clears. But more than that, he already made content for me. For the interview, just so I'm like, hey, I was like, do you have any questions? Like, I actually made these 2 clips for you. I made them on my own time, and I loved it. I'm like, yep, we got you in here. And this kid's in high school, and I'm like, again, he goes to, again, objectively, maybe someone who goes to Penn State or MIT or some school could be objectively a better intern on paper. But this kid just showed up, giving his all, and I know this kid's gonna work 10 times harder than any other kid I choose. So why would I not choose this? So why would I not choose this kid? So I think most people should not be frightened by what they don't have done, They should be excited about what they can do. Yes. And if you focus on what you can do and not what you have not done, that's what's gonna get you to where you want to go more than anything else. For real, like that's the real shit. Yes. Like I'll invest someone who's more invested in themselves. Like than someone who's like, again, good on paper. That's
just like
thing.
Wanting the experience, but like 10 weeks up in the internship, then they're never gonna actually talk to you again.
Yeah, or they're exactly. Just, and some people are like that, and you have to hire them for whatever. I get it. But again, like the same way, like I'll use an analogy, right? The same way there's NFL draft classes, right? Let's say you have like 10 picks or 7 picks in the NFL draft, right? Picks round 1 through 7, whereas you hire 10 interns, right? You cannot reasonably expect all 10 people to be Hall of Fame players. But if you can draft 1 Hall of Fame player, maybe 2 All-Pro players, 3 starters for your team, it's a good moment, right? And you're not drafting for who's going to be the best today, who will help me out the most today. It's who can help me out the most. For two sports fans, right? I know my brother back here is a Packers fan. Jordan Love. Everyone was saying when Aaron Rodgers, when the Packers drafted Jordan Love, they had a NFC championship team with the Packers, and they drafted a backup quarterback with the first-round pick. In the moment, every Packers were burning their jerseys, all this stuff. Now they're probably grateful as hell they used that pick on him for whatever reason.
He got a big deal, right? He got paid?
Yeah, he got paid like $220 million or whatever.
Well, how much?
I think like $200+ million.
Yeah, and his agent is the one I referenced earlier about that.
There you go. Yeah. But my whole point is like, when I look at these things for those people who are in college right now or who are looking to be someone at some point, don't be insecure about who you're not right now. Be excited about who you can be in the future. And if you're excited about who you can be and people see that you are that kind of person, they want you to be on their side because they remind you of themselves. When I was in college, I was doing the whole sports networking thing. One of my good buddies, he works for the Ravens now. His name is Marcus Jenkins. And we talk on the phone like every 2 weeks. He worked for them. He did sales. And he would just hear how I am. He's like, Darsh, I don't know anything about like whatever you're doing, but like, he called me a psycho. He's like, you're a psycho, man. How do you have time to talk to me for an hour every week when you at school? Because I was running my own club. I was in a professional fraternity. I was in an intern. I was doing all these millions of things. He's like, why are you still talking to me when I can't really give you anything? He's like, I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to I'm trying to be like you. And then what happens that, Marcus, shout out Marcus, I'm sure he watches this. He told me, he's like, hey, we have an internship this summer. If you want in, like, I'll get you tomorrow. But I was like, I'm good right now. But those things turn into success. It's not you getting the internship at whatever gets you the next one. It's how you actually make people feel, right? For example, the people who are interns right now, I'm sure people who just finished an internship or whatever, the return offer. The return offer is not, did you make the most sales, you make the most emails? No. The return offer comes from the people who are in charge. Do they think you are a good person to stay here? And how do you become that? By, again, going the extra mile, showing about more than being your person to 110%. Because one of my friends, he asked me advice. He's like, how do I make sure I stand out? He's like, and he told me, he was like, oh my God, I'm going to have all these coffee chats. Coffee chats? Yeah, he's like, I'm going to have all these coffee chats. I'm going to volunteer for everything. I'm like, no, dude, like, you're thinking about what's objectively the most valuable. Like, you should not think about what's objectively the most valuable. You should think about what is your objectively most valuable thing? What are you the best at? Is it being a very interpersonal person? Is it being the person who can set up events? Is it getting people together? Is it actually doing the best work? Whatever your actual best thing is, pour into that. Because like, let's say for example, his name's Rocky. He's my guy, and he was like, literally. And he was like, should I do this? And I was like, no, dude. Like, if you focus on your best thing that you think you can be, what you want to be known for, if you focus on that the most, then what will happen is at the end of this internship, they'll want to bring you back and everything else. So right now he's actually waiting for his return offer. I hope he gets it. But the whole thing is that. Like, focus on what you're good at and what you want to actually bring to value, and then people are going to bring you back. No, because on paper how good you look. It's how you make people feel.
Right. One thing I just want to say, you're spin, bro. You guys, if you're not listening to what he's saying, like, please rewind it back.
That's why we have this podcast, and we're passionate about it.
Rewind it back and, like, hear what he's saying. That was just a gem right there. But really quick, too, I think, too, when you explain that what you're not, you know how you said focusing about things that you're not? People actually respect you more because there's a lack of ego. Then there's no ego, right? I think a lot of times people, like, think about intro calls, too. I mean, we've been talking a lot of this conversation has been about networking. Yeah. It's like when you – first thing you say, oh, I've done blah, 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 blah. It's all the PR, like, what all the things. You start with that, but then guess what happens? Call 3, 4, 5, you find out all the other thing in the back end. So then you test a character. Versus you just come up straight off the rip and go, look, and I'm not saying to just be like, yo, cast your problems on the people. What I'm saying is just be like, yo, I'm not knowledgeable on this. Yeah. Show me. Yeah. people will respect that a lot more because it shows that like you're actually, one, you're trying to learn, but two, like you don't think something you're more than not.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think something that's funny that I watched a video of Elon Musk talking about like how he hires people, and it was so weird. It was so refreshing in a way too. He said when he had interviews for like Tesla, all his companies starting out, he was like, he only asked them 2 questions. He said, "Tell me about all the problems in your life that you're going through and how did you solve them?" That's all he asked people. And through that, you basically learn everything about a person. And I was like, damn, like that's like I never like, thought it, because people always ask, so tell me about more what you do, or tell me this internship you had last summer. And you can ask them, or you can say, if you just ask them what do you care about the most, why, like tell me about why you're feeling or why you figured it out. You're gonna learn a lot more about that person because objectively you're investing in the people more than their past. And that is what I think that you people should do. And again, I think about this more from like the actual applicant perspective. If you're someone, let's say someone wants to work for you, they're like, oh my god, this Go Time shit, like Juan is the fucking man, I want to work for Juan. They should not think about, oh my god, I'm not qualified. They should think, okay, like Juan was this person that did XYZ. So if I show him that I want to be what he was, then Juan's gonna want me. Like it's about being the person that people want to work with, and like that's my sauce, like for what people want to do. So that's the big thing. Baby. Yeah, I know.
Cooking it up, man.
I know, man. So I mean, the last kind of thing I really wanted to go about with you is like the whole idea of like success, right? I think everyone's success is very different, but the whole point of this is to give value. My whole big thing is like how you give value to your clients, everything. I want to give value to my audience. Like that's my whole thing.
Hell yeah.
So talk a bit more about like what the most valuable things that have been for your. Now I want to drop networking. No more networking advice. But like we talked about it for a long time. But what has been the most key indicators for yourself for like keys to your success? Like what has worked for you? Like for example, this whole thing with Austin that you worked for, I think with quarterback of the Sean Clifford, like whatever you've done in the past, how have you actually got success? What have been your keys to success? Like what are those things? Because I think people need to know this thing. I think because what you'll say is people never heard of it, and I want you to talk about what those things are.
Yeah, I would say number one, and I love that you say the networking because that is so true.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, no more networking. You got it, guys. But showing up every day and really saying how I can get 1% better and identifying what that is.
Do you have a hack for that? Like, how do people actually? Because it's easier said than done. So, do you have ways that you have like a to-do list? Do you have like a routine?
On my you should see my Google Calendar. I mean, like, it's broken down from like everything to like my morning routine to my night routine, and it's listed out. My workouts, like everything's in there. Just because that's how I operate personally. Where it also is oddly satisfying doing that. I like having the checklist and checking it off. But that's one way of success. Number two is not getting attached to the actual goal that you have set and just focusing on what you can control. I think a lot of times when you're so you have a lot of ambition and these things, you really want to get that thing and you get distracted by it. Yeah. And then when something comes up, it's like, oh, now I am, you go in a spiral. Yeah. So just like being even keel with who you are. And then I think third is just like really having the actions to back up what you say, right? Yeah. Whatever your ambition is, like, talk is really free, work sold separately, that whole notion. I think that is what has helped me get any sort of kind of success, if you want to call it, just like ability to do what I've done is really just like put it in, right? Like you can tell me all you want that you're going to do X, Y, Z, but like show me. Yeah, for real. Because nobody actually cares until you show it, Like you show it like this, right? Like you said you want to have a grade 7 pod. Cool. Let me see it now. Yeah. Exactly, Yeah. So I think that's the key is how I've been able to do any sort of thing, right? And honestly, to be honest, I think I haven't even started yet. I think we're just we just got to keep going. So obviously that's my things of how to. Yeah, and like, can you tell an example of like how, like for example, you did that? Because I think again, like, what's a way where again showing up is like I think something that most people actually don't do. For example, I think it's harder. It's easier said than done. Of like always showing up. It's a hard thing. But what's I'm not perfect either. So like. You got but it's also here's a great example. Not feeling sorry for yourself when you don't show up. Since you're not perfect, you're going to have days where maybe you mess up, but just don't repeat 2 days in a row. So I'll give you a great example. My biggest pain point sometimes is going to the gym consistently. Yeah. So if I miss the gym one day, okay, great. You knew you did that. So don't miss it the next day. Yeah. Because you're going to feel bad about yourself. So I think that's a great example of like, I guess practical is like, use the gym. That's for me is I need to go in there because I know that that's going to fuel me in business and life, how my relationships are. So I think that's like a great example of showing up. Also too, like your words, everything. So if like, it's a similar notion of like practice. If you say you're going to tell like somebody you're going to do something for them, then do it. Yeah.
No, I think again, especially when it comes to working with clients, I mean that's the most important
that's the biggest thing in
yeah.
this industry, man, because it takes years to build a reputation and it takes 1 second
moment to burn it all. And that's with everyone. I think like again, whether you're a student, an intern, or you're a leader, let's say you're a leader like us, right? It's like even if you're not even thorough with your people who are working with you, like let's say like you have an intern who's like waiting for you to get on a call, you got to show up for them, even though it might not be the most ROI time in your head.
ROI, yeah, you can't always attach the ROI.
You can't. You got to show up when you agree to something. And if you're an intern, let's say you're working for someone and you have a deadline, do it by the deadline. It's like, I think the whole idea thing, I think too, is if you can associate yourself with being a reliable person, then again, people will trust you. I think that's a big thing too. Like my advice to everyone is become someone that someone can trust to get their stuff done. Like that's an underrated thing. So I think objectively, it's like I value reliability more than talent too, because I would rather have someone I can say reliably, like I'll expect them to on a Friday get it sent to me done, whereas now they tell me Friday and now it's Tuesday, I'm like hunting them down. For example, like one story is that someone I had who was helping me out here a lot, super talented guy behind the camera, and he was super amazing, helping me with everything. But every time I'd ask him to have something done for me, it was always like a week later, or it was I couldn't. And for me, I was like, okay, well now I can't trust this person. I can't work with them anymore for X, Y, and Z. And you know what's funny too? What
you said. Yeah. When you make a promise and you don't keep it, or like if you quit, it always ends up being once a quitter or like anything. It always applies to other assets of your life. Whether you think it does or not.
Yeah, it's true.
So like just because like I missed a meeting, or I canceled this or whatnot, like it's gonna apply other way because it just spiral effects. So. Again, you're not perfect. Don't focus on being perfect. Just focus on being you.
Yeah, real. Don't be focused on being perfect. Focus on being you.
Yep.
And then you'll end up where you want to end up anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, dude, that's the real though, man. I think again, like last thing I kind of want to say. I mean, I feel we could talk for hours. I'll be honest.
Bro, I could, dude. I don't even know.
It's already been like an hour 40 minutes, bro.
Holy cow, really?
Yeah, I swear. So I guess like one last thing I kind of want you here to talk about is what has been like your favorite parts of what you've been doing now, and what have been some of the hardest things? I think that's what I really want to hear from you. Like, we really hear you reflect on your experience so far. I think a lot of people can learn from things from that too. So I'm curious.
And I again appreciate the opportunity to be on here. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh my God, you can thank me at the end, bro. Not right now.
Yeah. But I'd say I'm gonna start the hardest thing is entrepreneurship has taught me that sometimes it feels like a lonely road. That's why you have to rely on others. And there's been times, man. Like I've genuinely like questioned, like, why don't I just go apply on LinkedIn and go like get a job? Like, why am I some reason wanting to have this? And there's like days where like I would have self-doubt of like, I'm not an entrepreneur. Like, something bad happened, whether like I lost like a client or whatever the case is, like, oh man, like this not meant for me. And just automatically like go against sinking in it. So I'd say that's been the hardest, like probably the biggest struggle is just like that self-doubt sometimes in here because you're on your own shoulder. You are the one carrying that vessel. Best accomplishment or best like thing that's just like most fulfilling, it's just seeing clients like in their athletic performance, like do well. Like when I saw Annie win the national championship with LSU, first one in program history, do it against OU, was 2-time back-to-back, like instant in crazy fashion. Aaliyah Finnegan finishes on beam, like just stuff like that, and the emotion and like actually being happy for them. Like that's a whole other convo. Like actually being happy for people. Yeah. Like when people say like, I'm happy for them, I think sometimes there's that underlying jealousy.
Envy or something.
Envy. Genuinely, how many people do you know that you're around on a day-to-day at work, your friends, your parents, that are actually happy for you?
Yeah.
And have zero jealousy.
Yeah, so, I saw this video of this one guy. It was a video of him. His friends won some award for like some entrepreneur award, and it was a video of the friend, and it's a friend just sobbing in tears. Yeah. And everyone was like, wow, like you just need one person like that in your life, and like that's what matters. But,
so I think that's been the biggest thing that's been like most fulfilling, or thing that what I do is seeing them conquer those goals. Yeah. And how that makes them feel, right? So that's what I'd say. Yeah,
man, dude, I love it, dude. I think like again, I could talk to you more for hours, but last question I really have for you is like, where are you going now? Like, what can we expect from Juan? Like, what's on the cards for you now, man?
Yeah, man. I mean, fall semester, we've already been rolling. Got a lot of campaigns back to school. Working with brands, so rolling those out, and man, just continuing to grow within the space, and really just trying to provide that value. It's now year 2, so now nice. You've learned 1 year. Under your belt, and like now it's time to like let's get it rolling. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Juan Faura, Instagram, Juan Faura, JFaura10.
Yeah, make your shout outs, man. This is your time.
Shout out, like I said, I've shouted out a bunch of people. Austin, shout out Sebastian, Justin Loser, that's my guy. Jack Adler, Sam Holland, all the Bill Mo guys. Those are talk about like surrounding yourself around like-minded people. It's a group chat we have with you know a bunch of entrepreneurs. So appreciate all you guys. Appreciate my family, mom, dad. Shout out Leah as well. Leah's you know the girl who really you know holds me down.
Yeah,
but
Shout out
yeah,
Leah.
man, that's it, man. But again, really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna leave you with one last thing, I'll be like this. Be transformational, not transactional, and take advantage of an opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity.
There you go, man. Dude, again, a lot of the time you used to be saying stuff and I'm just like, wow, which is a lot of the things. But dude, again, more than anything, I just want to thank you, man. Like every time I tell this to everyone, but like you're really genuinely part of my dream now. And I think like every episode is very different in the way they are. Some are very, you know, more like introspective, some are more like neurotic, some are more like passionate. And this one, it feels like I'm talking to another version of myself, which doesn't always happen. I think like maybe like 4 or 5 of them have been this kind of style where we're just oozing passion and just like we're just like volume.
I felt bad. I was cutting you off. I was just getting so amped up.
You remind me of me though in that sense where you're just excited to share and like you have so much you want to share and like you're passionate about what you're doing. Like you're actually passionate. You actually care.
Am. And like I'm not fronting that because like I actually truly believe this stuff.
And I can like vividly see that. Like you can't fake that. You can't fake that.
Bro.
So yeah, I mean, more than anything, I think like this is the beginning of a new brother. I call that. You know, that's literally what they said.
And likewise here, man. We want to have you on our podcast.
Oh my God.
As intricate as this.
I don't care about none of that.
But we want to have you on the podcast and any introductions you want to make. But more importantly, man, like I care about how you are. Care about how he is as a person.
Yeah,
if
really.
There's anything that you need in that aspect. Call me. You have my number, and man, like I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, man. Let's just eat together, man.
Let's eat together. Great way to start the week, by the way.
Yeah, right. Seriously. Recording this on Sunday night. Episode's gonna be live tomorrow morning, so you better be ready for that. So the turnaround's gonna be awesome there. We're pulling all nighter out. But more than anything, I have a little gift for you. Yes, if you want to grab one of the.
I appreciate that, man. No way.
You want white or black?
I mean, I'm going to go with white.
And
man,
you a large?
Talk about providing value and building community, not customers.
Large?
That's what Darsh is doing here at Grove Street Pod.
You like large?
Yeah, large. Yeah, that works,
This
man.
is for you. So this is
I appreciate
we don't sell these or anything.
Yeah.
We got really high quality shirts made. Shout out Elite Custom Apparel and Carly for making these. These are more of a token of thank you, but also like a welcoming the family. So
I appreciate
this
that,
for
bro.
you. Hope you wear
Means
this.
A lot.
It's funny. The video Danny Cooper posted. Shout out Danny again. Today or yesterday, it was like 19 hours ago of him training a Villanova athlete and training him.
Yeah.
He was wearing his Grove Street shirt. So
I'm definitely gonna rep this, man. I appreciate this again. Like it's been an unreal pod. Again, it's just from the moment I walked in this room and I saw the setup.
Yeah.
These guys are doing great things, so don't be surprised when they're the #1 Apple podcast.
Oh, it's coming. Again, we're just starting, and again, like the way I look at this now is like you're part of this journey, and we're gonna have part 2 in a few years, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But again, like thank you, man. Again, I think this is one where I'm excited to go watch this back and edit it now because I'm gonna feel it's gonna give me more motivation to do what I'm doing. So appreciate you so much, bro. Again, like it's crazy. We talked for the first time like 3-4 days ago, and now it feels like I've known you forever. So
it's crazy, man. That's just
crazy.
How life works, man. God, people put you, God again puts you in these situations, and we just make it happen.
Seriously, and again, like if you guys want to stay in touch, again, like if you're a college athlete or anyone who wants to get in touch with you, represented by someone who's amazing, who's going to represent you well, go to Juan. I have no doubt in my mind he's a person who will take you to where you want to go and like do it the right way in the personalized way. But also, if you want to learn about entrepreneurship, watch an awesome unstructured pod. If you just want to like learn about what he's doing, how he's doing it, again, as a 22-year-old trying to figure his life out and become someone, and go through the ups, the downs, and all that stuff. Again, go follow him on LinkedIn, follow him on Instagram. Go show up to Go Time LLC. It's on Instagram as well. Like every way possible, go support him in his journey because he wants to support so many people as well.
Yep.
And again, dude, like so appreciative for talking about networking, talking about inspiration, talking about failure. We're talking about a lot of great things. And if you liked it, please like, follow, comment, share, do all that shit. Subscribe, do all that stuff. But again, seriously appreciate you and everyone watching. And again, bro, it was a wrap, bro. That's amazing.
A wrap. Unreal pod, brother.
Yeah, appreciate you, bro.
Woo.
And that's done.
Unfucking real, boy.
It's fire.
Woo! That was a great sir, bro.
That's fire, bro.
Woo! And a good guy, bro.